Alright, so we're going to jump into our placemats part of the pattern. So for this one you're going to need the 4 background fabrics, which are labeled blue 4, blue 3, blue 2, and blue 1. And what we're going to do with those fabrics is we're going to cut them so that they are 15 inches by 21 inches. So in your kit, or if you've got the kit from us, you have a piece that's about 23 by 21. So you want to have the longest side, so it's like up and down like this, so your shorter side is right here. And we're going to cut 15 inches across that. So again, I'm just going to grab my square and my longer ruler, and I'm just going to square this off real quick. So we want to have the square running a line through the bottom of your fabric. And then you're just going to butt your 6 by 24 or 8 by 24 inch ruler up against your square. Move your square away. So we have a nice straight cut for that. And now we want to cut 15 inches across. So we're going to need, on this ruler, we need 6.5. So I've got my 6.5 inch line on the edge of my fabric. Then I'm going to bring in my 24 inch ruler, butt it up against my square. And cut. So now I've got 15. I'm just going to keep this here for the moment. So now we're just going to turn this, and we're going to cut 24 inches across. So that means that I need 12.5 because my ruler is 8.5. So I'm putting the 12.5 inch line on the edge of my fabric, and it should be running on a straight line on your square down here. So 12.5 plus 8.5 gives me 21. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that for all 4 of the background pieces. So we have the one cut. I've done mine already, but at this point you can just pause me and go ahead and cut your other 3. And I'm just going to continue here. So we have blue 3, blue 4. So what we're going to do is we're just going to stack them one on top of the other. And you want to be as exact as you can here. Doesn't really matter in what order you're doing this. So I've got my 4 blues all stacked up. So I'm just going to pull out my chalk. I might even use my friction pen for this one. So what we're going to do now is measure 1 inch from the bottom of your stack of fabrics. So I'm just going to put my ruler here. Do it this way. So I got my 4 inch down here. So I'm just going to make a line where my 3 inch is. So I've got 1 inch from my mark down to the bottom of my fabric. And then I'm going to measure over 7.5 inches from the left side of your rectangles across the top. So you want to put your 7.5 inch line here, and you're going to make a mark right there. And now you're going to take your ruler and you're going to join those 2 lines. So I'm just going to put my ruler from my mark at the top to the mark I made at the bottom, and I'm just going to draw a line there. Like that. Alright, so next step is you're going to mark 15 inches from the top across from the left side of your rectangles again. So the 15-inch mark on your ruler is on the left hand side, and again we're going to make a mark up here, and this time we're going to draw a line from that top mark right down into the corner of your stack of fabrics. So I'm just in the corner, and I'm just going to go across the top. So your second line should look like that. Okay, so now we're going to mark 1 inch from the left side of your fabrics. You're going to mark 1 inch over on the bottom. So I'm going to make a mark right here. And then on the right hand side, you're going to mark 7.5 inches up from the bottom. So you're going to make, so you got the 0 down on the bottom and 7.5 right here. And then we're going to connect those 2 points. Okay, so now you should have 3 lines. So you got 1, 2, 3, and what we're going to do now is just cut through those lines. So you don't want to move anything until you've cut your 3 lines. So I'm just going to put my ruler right on that line. And I'm just going to move over and cut this one. And then the third one. Okay, so now we have 4 pieces. So what we want to do here to build our backgrounds is you want each one of these to be a different color. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. The way that I like to do it is just shuffle. So I'm just going to shuffle this second pile 1 down. So I'm just going to take the top fabric and put it on the bottom. Then I'll take the 2 off the top of this one and bring that to the bottom. And then I'll take 3 off of this one and bring it to the bottom. So now we have a different colored fabric in each one of our sections. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to build our placemats by sewing these together. So we've cut these pieces big enough so that we can trim them down to the size that we want. And we're doing that for a couple of reasons, because when you're sewing on an angle like this, it's hard to get them lined up straight. And secondly, we don't want a lot of our seams to be very bulky in this bottom corner here. So what we're going to do is just put these 2 together. So I'm just going to take the top 4 and build my placemat. So I'm just lining them up like that. I'm not worrying about whether it's 1/4 of an inch past or not. You're just lining them up and you're going to sew. So I'm just going to sew this one. Just using a 1/4 inch seam for this. edges. Okay, so I'm just going to press that. So my thread let go here. So I'm just pressing that one over. It doesn't really matter which way you're pressing. I would just make sure I'm pressing them all the same way. So then I'm going to take my third piece and I'm going to lay it on top of this one. And I'm going to go sew that. Okay, and then we're going to press that one over. So again, I want to be pressing the same way. And now we're going to put our fourth piece on. Background should look like this. So you're going to go ahead and do that for the other 3 backgrounds and then we'll be right back. Alright, I've sewn all of my backgrounds for my placemats, so you should have 4 background pieces like this, and you'll see here it looks pretty nasty on the bottom corner. We're going to fix that up right away because we have to square these down to 18.5 by 12.5. So the first thing to square that off, I'm just going to flip mine like this. So you want this crazy little corner here at the top left hand side. So you have a nice straight edge up here, and we're going to use that as a straight edge to do our first cut. So the first one that I'm doing is the very top of my placemat, and I want to cut off just enough to make a straight line. And this is my preference. You have some leeway here, so how far up and down you go this way is up to you. But I'm going farther up so that I don't have a bunch of seams in my corner here. So I'm just cutting off just the least that I can at the top. So I'm putting a straight line on the very top. So I'm putting my 23-inch line on my straight edge of my fabric here. And I'm just past all my fabric, and I'm just going to cut this so it's nice and straight. Then I'm just going to rotate this so I have the other long side. So across this way we want 12.5. So I have an 8.5-inch ruler, so that means I need a 4-inch line on my straight edge now. So I've got my 4-inch line running on the edge of my placemat, and the bottom is also a straight edge, so that should be nice and square. And then I'm just going to cut this off, so you can see now that we don't have all those 3 seams coming together in a point. It's been spaced out for you. Alright, so now we're going to turn the placemat so that corner where all the fabrics are coming together are now at the top right hand side. And we're going to, I'm going to put my 1-inch line where my two first fabrics are intersecting here. So my straight edge is at the top, and I've got about an inch from the top to where these two fabrics meet. And I'm just going to cut that. And again, I'm just going to rotate this so that the edge we just cut is now on the left hand side. And now we want to trim this down to 18 and a half. So I have an 8.5 inch ruler that I'm using here. So on my square I need 10 inches. So just like that. And I'm just going to trim this side. So your placemat background should now look like that. So you're going to go ahead and do that for the other three. I have done mine already. So once you're done squaring them off, you should have 4 pieces of background. So 4 placemats. So you'll see that they're all different with the fabrics shifting from position to position. Okay, so we've got those 4, so we're just going to put those aside for a minute, and we're going to jump right into getting our applique pieces ready to go. So we're going to take our applique template sheets, which you have 6 of. There's on each side of there's 3 sheets with both sides printed. So for the placemats, we need to find the pieces that are labeled the mitts, the snowmen, the candles, and the candle and the snowflake. So for your snowman, you have 17 pieces. Your mitts have 8 pieces. Your candle has 4 pieces, and your snowflake is 1 piece. So we're going to find those pieces on here. Then we're going to grab our steam seam, and you can see here that I've started tracing mine already. So you can see that on some of these pieces we've put pieces inside other pieces, so that means that you're going to trace your mitt, and then you're going to move it over out of that mitt to trace the cuff. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So you're just going to take your piece and put it underneath your steam seam. And also notice that I am tracing on the side of my steam seam that has the grid. Okay, the blank side should be down. All right, and I'm just using a fine little black marker, and I want to make sure that I'm far enough away from my other pieces so that when I'm cutting these out, I can cut away from the line, because it just makes it easier to cut out of your fabric after. So I'm just going to cut my mitt, or trace my mitt, sorry. And I'm going to label that mitten 1, just like it is on your template, your applique template sheet. And I'm just going to move this over, and I'm going to trace the piece that was put inside the mitt on my template sheet. And this is mitts 2. So you're going to go find your pieces on your template, your applique template sheets, trace all your pieces like I have done here, and then we're just going to go ahead and cut about 1/4 of an inch away from each piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so the snowflake is done just a little bit differently. We only have half the snowflake on your applique template sheet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to draw the half, and then where you see this red line, we're just going to spin our sheet around, put our red line underneath the other straight line that we've drawn, and then we're going to complete our snowflake. So we're going to go like this, So you want to make sure you start so that your middle is where there's going to be more room to draw. So don't put this end over here because then you won't be able to draw your full snowflake. So I'm just going to go like that. Then I'm going to grab my marker and I'm just going to trace my snowflake. Okay, so I've got half of my snowflake drawn, so I'm just going to spin my applique template sheet around. And I'm just going to line up the bottom of my half on top of the red line on the snowflake, and then I'm just going to keep on tracing. So this is going to be cut out as one piece instead of two. Alright, so then we'll cut that out. When you're cutting these ones out, you don't have to be, like you don't have to go all the way inside snowflake here. I'm just roughly drawing around, or cutting around it. Okay, so once I have this cut out, I have the rest of my pieces cut out. So we're going to match up our pieces with our fabric. So in your pattern you have a couple sheets. If you bought the kit from us, you're going to have a sheet that has the layout for your fabric. So it has the color and what goes on those fabric pieces. If you're just doing your own fabrics, then you won't have this sheet in your pattern. But the other sheet that's important is your applique color fabric color chart, because this one tells you what pieces go on what color. So your orange, for example, is your Snowman 11, which is the nose. The yellow has candle number 3, which is your flame. Cut. Sorry, Pat, is your bigger quilt? Who? Pat Pico. Oh, that's right there. Sorry.
Which one is it?
This one back here. Sorry, Michelle. She should be on pause. Then your brown has Snowman 6 and Snowman 7, which is going to be the arms, etc. So you need this chart to know where everything goes. So I'm just going to pull out my fabrics here to show you. So on your white, we need to put the Snowman 1, 2, 3, and your snowflake. So we have to fit all of these on here. And remember to put your fabric wrong side up for this. So I'm going to put my snowflake on here first. So this is what we need on our white. And then we have our dark red, which is going to be candle 1, which is this piece here. So again, wrong side up. So this one's going on here. Then your medium red is going to be the rest of your candle. . also going to stick this little S10 in there for the brim of the snowman hat. So that's going to be that one. Your pink is the zigzags on your mittens, and you can see here I didn't cut out all the zigzags individually. I just did a big piece, so it's easier to handle those smaller pieces. So that's going to go onto your pink. Your black is going to be the snowman vest, which is 4 and 5. And then you have the rest of your hat and all these little black pieces for the nose and eyes. So that goes on like that. Okay, then we have the dark purple is for mitts 2 and 6, which is the cuffs. So that will just go like that. And your medium purple is the mitts themselves. It's going to be these guys. So those will go like that. And then we have brown will be for the arms. Your yellow is going to be for your candle 3, which is the flame. And your orange is for snowman 11, which is the nose. So once you have your pieces paired up with the proper fabrics, you're going to go ahead and fuse these to the wrong side of your fabric. So we have paper on either side of our stainless seam. You don't want to remove the gridded side because that's the side that we've traced on, so we still need that to cut out the piece with the fabric on it. So we need to remove the piece that has no lines on it. And to do that, basically if you just fold over and just pinch it a little bit, it'll release the stainless seam in there. And you're just going to peel that off. The stainless seam is pretty tacky, so you can just set this on here and just finger press it. You can go ahead and cut this out now. If you want, you can put the dry iron on it just to stabilize it, but not too much at this point. So once you have it on your fabric, you're going to take your scissors and now you're cutting right on the line. So you're going to go ahead and do that with all of these pieces. I'm going to go and finish mine, and then I'll be right back to show you how to build your placemats. Alright, I have all of my pieces fused to my fabric and cut out, so now we're going to start assembling our placemats. So I'm just going to pull one of the backings out, and I'm going to start with the snowflake one. It's got the one piece, so I'm just going to pull off that gridded paper now. Being careful that it doesn't lay back on itself so that the stainless seam glues itself to itself. Okay, so this is pretty tacky, so you can put this down and move it a couple times before you actually fuse it in place. So I'm just going to lay this down like this. just going to twist it a little bit more. Kind of like that. And again, this is very artistic type of project, so there's no wrong or right way of doing something in here. You can, if you want it in the center, you can put it in the center. If you want it more to the side, you can go more to the side. It does not matter. So this is the snowflake one. So now you're just going to stitch around, just do an edge stitch. And again, cut. We'll have my foot. Tap it. So we're just going to stitch around the snowflake with a white, and I use an open-toed foot to do my applique. So when I set my needle up, I will move it to the right so that I'm getting about an inch or an eighth of an inch from the side of my applique piece, and then I run the inside of my foot along the edge of my applique foot, and then just stitch like that, and then you'd have to pivot around these points. But just by running the inside of your foot along the edge, it just makes it easier, more even when you're stitching. And we're using 1.8 stitch length to do the edge stitch, so that you can turn corners and your stitch isn't too big. So I'm gonna go and stitch this in a little bit. I'm just going to set up all 4 placemats for you first. So if you want to stitch this right now, you just go ahead and hit pause and then come back when you're ready for the second one. But I'm moving on to number 2, which is going to be our candle. And again, the candle can be where you want it to be. So candle number 1 piece is the one that we want first. So I'm just going to pull this off, and you can start at the edge of your placemat so that it's going to be hidden in your binding. Just going to pull this off of here. Then we're going to put number 2, which is this guy here. So this one just goes on top of this one. Like that. And also remember that you have a placement sheet in your kit. Let's get my hands on it here. Okay, we'll have to cut that out too. Jeez. Oh, I bet you I gave it to Wendy. And she was correcting that thing. So also remember you have a placement sheet in your kit which shows you how to set up your pieces. So we have number 1, number 2 goes on top of number 1. And again, if you're not happy exactly where you put your piece, you can move them until you put the iron on them. So that one goes there. Then you'll take number 3, which is your flame. And it's going to go here. And then number 4 is your dripping wax. And it's going to go like that. So if you're happy with this placement, you can go ahead and start stitching, but you don't want to fuse everything down right away because you want to stitch. So for this number 1, you're going to want to stitch underneath your number 4 piece here, just so that you don't see your stopping and starting of your stitching. So same thing with your flame. If you have your flame tucked underneath your dripping wax, you're going to pull back this one, stitch this, and then put this on top, and then do the final stitching around your candle. So you can go ahead and stitch that one down. And then number 3 is going to be our mittens. So number 1 is the one mitt. And this one goes, you can set these up the way you want. I'm going to put mine right there. Number 2 is going to be the cuff for that one. So again, before you put your cuff on, you can go ahead and stitch this down to the ends. You don't have to go across this part because it's going to be covered. But you want to go down far enough so that part of the stitching is going to be underneath your cuff. So you're going to put your cuff on here. So you can stitch that one down. Then we want 3 and 5. So then these go across your mittens. Like that. And you have your number 4. Just like that. So then you can stitch those guys down. Then you'll grab your number 5, which is your left hand mitt. You'll put that one over here. So again, you can stitch this one down and then put your cuff on. And stitch your cuff, and then you'll put your little zigzags on. So this is number 8. And this is number 7. Just like that. So you can go and stitch those guys down, and that's number 3. And for number 4, we have our snowman. This one's a little bit more complicated. We've got 17 pieces for this one. So number 1 is the biggest snowball. And we're going to put him on the edge of our placemat. So you can, if you're happy with that placement, you can go ahead and stitch just the sides. You don't have to go across the bottom or the top. Number 2. Is the medium snowball, and number 3 is the head. So again, you're stitching, so this one you'll be stitching from underneath number 3 piece all the way around to underneath on the other side. Then you'll put your number 3 piece on top of that. Then number 4 and 5 is the vest for the snowman. So you'll take number 4, I'll go like that. And number 5 goes on the other side. And again, you can place these how you want. Just gonna cover it a little higher here. So again, you're going to be stitching, when you're stitching your vest down, your number 4, you're going to stitch just so that it's underneath your 5 over here. You'll stitch the way around until you're underneath your 5, and then the 5 will be all the way around. Then 6 and 7 are the arms. So we'll peel those guys off. Whoops, wrong piece. So your arms just go in here. And on this side, and these ones you just stitch all the way around. And then we have 8, which is going to be the brim of the hat. So he goes on top. And then number 9 is the top of the hat, which goes on top of your brim. And then you have the band for the hat, number 10. So this one you want to have hiding that seam here. So you're going to be stitching around and just underneath the top of the hat, and then you'll just stitch the 3 sides of the hat, and then the band will go across the top, on top of those 2 pieces where they join, and then you'll just stitch around the brim. Then we have 11, which is the carrot nose. And you'll just stick him like that. And then all these little pieces, they're your 12 to 17 are your those little dots. So the 2 bigger pieces are the eyes. So you'll grab those ones and just put them on here. Like that. And then these guys are for his mouth. And these are pretty tiny. So I'm just going to put them, I'm not going to tap them down yet until I have them all on there. So again, we do have the things I talked about, stitching underneath the pieces. That's all in the pattern as well. So there's a tip section in the placemat part of the pattern and in the runner part of the pattern. And again, if you feel like you don't want to make all these little pieces, our machines are all capable of doing all kinds of different little stitches. So you can go ahead and stitch a mouth in or stitch some eyes in. It's an art project. You do as you wish to until you're happy with it. So you don't have to use everything that we've got here. But once you're happy with the placement, you can go ahead and stitch him down, and you'll have 4 placemats. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch mine, and then I'll be back with my finished placemats. Alright, I'm back with my placemat stitched down. So we have the candle, the snowman, our snowflake, and our mitts. So that's what they should look like, or somewhat whatever version you have happening. And again, the backgrounds can be varied. They don't have to be blue. They can be something else. But just a fun, cute little pattern for a Christmas/winter type theme. So thanks for joining us in our class.